Yo, what's up? It's Chris Simms Unbuttoned, and as always, I'm with the Tom Brady of PointsBet today, my man Jay Croucher. Yeah, you're the franchise guy, man. I just, every week I think I'm going to throw out a new quarterback name for you, but looking forward to having some good conversations, and always glad to be with you, Jay. Hope you're well, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. It's getting sad. There's only 2 weeks of full football left. I'll have to start talking about hockey or Australian football or something, but it is winding down, but still lots happening. So looking forward to diving into what we've got on tap today.
Yeah, we got a lot of action still, and you're not going to get rid of me totally. I mean, we got playoffs to talk about. Sorry, buddy, you're stuck with me at least for another 5 or 6 weeks. Deal with it or deal with it, or you got to deal with it. Sorry, you got to deal with it. All right, but here's right off the bat. I want to hit you with this. Best value for AFC teams to make or miss the playoffs. I mean, there's a lot of spots here up for grab, of course, still. I love at first just to get your base take on, some of the teams we got up here on this graphic with the Bengals, the Ravens hanging on by a thread, Miami hot, Cleveland, big game in Pittsburgh this week, Pittsburgh, who seems to be falling apart. What's your thought on this AFC playoff race here?
Yeah, still plenty left to unfold here. I think one team that's interesting, particularly at the bigger odds, is Cleveland, plus 500, where, they seem like a team that is falling apart, that their season is disintegrating, but at the same time, they're still alive. They played Pittsburgh, who are an equally broken team, if not more so, on Monday night. And then they play home to the Bengals. And right now, we would make Cleveland very, very slight favorites over the Bengals in Cleveland. So if they win both those games, they get a little bit of help with Baltimore losing to the Rams, then, they can make the playoffs. And I think the thing with Cleveland, too, is that they're starting to get a little bit healthier. And it's a weird thing to say, but outside of the 4 interceptions, thought Baker Mayfield looked better than he has previously. Just throwing the ball, he said that it was the healthiest he's felt in a while. So I think that there is still a little bit of life left in Cleveland. But what do you think? Do you think they're done?
No, I don't. I'm actually right in line with you and what your thoughts were. Baker Mayfield, 4 interceptions last week. You're right. He made a lot of big throws. And really, interception 1 and interception 4, in my opinion, were blatant pass interference. Not even his fault. I don't look at it as like, oh, Baker Mayfield really made a mistake. But I still look at it. I think we've had conversations, before here where I still think the Browns, top to bottom, when they're healthy, and like you said, are getting healthy here, are one of the more talented teams in all of football. That's why they've been a little disappointing. I expect them to go into Pittsburgh and win the football game because, like you said, I think the Steelers are completely falling apart. I don't think they're going to be able to stop the run of this Browns football team. And then it comes down to the Bengals game, week 18. And, at home for all the marbles. I don't know. Maybe if the Bengals get the upset win this week against the Chiefs, maybe they won't really have to play to get into the playoffs. I'm with you. That's the one that jumps out to me. I don't trust the rest of these teams right now that we had on that graphic, I think is the bottom line. And the Browns is the team that maybe I just trust a little bit more than the rest.
Yeah, definitely. These other teams, Miami, who have they really beaten? Baltimore are just falling off a cliff with their injuries. They're just too banged up, the Ravens. Maybe they can pull something out, but the footage of Lamar at practice yesterday did not look good, did not look promising, walking around with a really noticeable limp. And then Pittsburgh just aren't very good. And they've been able to pull out some games with TJ Watt firing up, but with him hobbled, with Big Ben getting to the end of his last season, doesn't seem like they have much left. So I think Cleveland are the team with the most upside, because there is a reason that they were everyone's favorite sleeper to win the AFC before the season. They still have all the talent on the roster. And if Baker is actually getting healthier, then they're a chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm with you there. All right, let's flip it over to the NFC. Same type of conversation here. Again, there's still some spots up for grabs here. And, of course, with the 49ers losing last Thursday, that opened the door and kept some teams still alive here. But, you look at it right now, 49ers, Eagles, Saints, Vikings. What's your take on those teams, and where do you think the best value is if we're going to lay down some money on this?
Yeah, so the NFC is probably even more of a mess than the AFC, because you start to get into tiebreakers and secondary tiebreakers, which is extremely complicated and makes a man think there's nothing good in the world. Look at all the conference records, the head-to-head matchups, And it's just very convoluted where the Niners, if they end up in a three-way tie with Philadelphia and New Orleans, then they miss the playoffs. But if they end up in a four-way tie with those three teams in Minnesota, then they make the playoffs. So it's just all of these weird convolutions. But I think that if you are looking at this, one angle I would take is that, we just don't know that much about Trey Lance and whether he is, a lot better than the quarterback that we saw against Arizona that ran the ball 16 times and didn't look that comfortable making throws. And they're going to have to go into LA and very possibly have to beat the Rams to make the playoffs with Trey Lance going up against Matt Stafford and co. So I think that the Niners to miss, just because of the way the tiebreakers break down, and the fact that, if they get to 9-8, that might not be enough to get them in. Look, I think they're definitely the best team of this group.
Yeah.
It's the fact that they have to play the Rams and may have to win that game gives me a little bit of pause. I think they'll take care of Houston. I'm not too worried about that. But I think that there is some potential for the Niners to miss.
I understand that. I can see your logic there. I mean, that's why they're interesting. You're right. I mean, again, they could be that team where I'd go, no, they're going to make the playoffs, and I think they're going to make a run here. But because of last week's loss and the way things lay out, it is a little scary, that Week 18 matchup against the Rams. I get your logic there. The other one I look at, and you tell me if you think it's crazy or not, just as far as, I know this isn't a huge play, but I look at the Eagles with, I'm definitely in favor, I think, the Eagles of maybe getting in the playoffs. I am. Again, they beat the Saints head-to-head, so it becomes some sort of tie between them. They're going to get the advantage there. But more than anything, I just look at their schedule down the stretch here. Playing a Washington team that is absolutely falling apart. They're fighting each other on the sidelines. I think the Week 18 matchup is I was going to say the New York Giants, and I think I'm wrong about that. Now I got to pull it up. Hold on a second. But their schedule is favorable, what I'm saying. How do you view the Eagles at the end of the day here, Jay?
Yeah, I think the Eagles, they're being slept on a little bit because they don't have very many impressive wins. But at the same time, they are destroying the bad teams. And that's a really good sign that, they're eviscerating teams like the Giants, like banged up Washington. They're taking care of business there. And, I suspect that they will beat Washington this week. And then if they win that game, then they're really in the driver's seat to get a playoff spot. And, they might be vaguely dangerous in the playoffs. I think that they've really turned themselves around. They've found an identity after the really poor start to the season. So the Eagles as well, whereas the tiebreakers kind of work against the Niners, they work in favor of the Eagles. Because like you said, they have the tiebreaker over New Orleans. They get into a three-way kind of muddle with the Niners and the Saints, then the Eagles will get in. So that works in Philadelphia's favor. So I think that they will likely make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I had a brain fart about their Week 18 matchup. It is the Dallas Cowboys, which, again, is... Hey, Dallas is a better football team. I don't think either one of us would disagree there. And the thing about that game is Dallas could very easily be playing for the number one seed in the NFC playoffs in the game that have meaning. So, man, this is a tough one to call. It really is. I do think the 49ers are going to get in the playoffs. I expect them to. I got too many questions about the Saints right now and their football team. I could see them playing in a close game against the Carolina Panthers this weekend. But, all in all, that three-way tiebreaker conversation is interesting. What about the Minnesota Vikings? I do want to ask you about them because they're going to Green Bay this week. They've had some success in Green Bay over the last few years. Beat the Packers there 2 years ago. Beat the Packers a few weeks ago at home. What do you look at as far as their prospects about jumping into this playoffs?
Yeah, well, it's all about Sunday night for the Vikings because if they lose that, they're done, basically. So they need to go in and beat Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau, so they've got to do it the hard way. But I think, you're right, that is a winnable game for them. They beat the Packers earlier this year. I don't think going into Lambeau should be too intimidating just because, they do it every year. They have the talents. They're a very strange team that it seems like there's something off about the Vikings. They haven't really played up to their potential. But at the same time, all of their games are close. So you suspect that they may have a chance to win it at the end. And I think that, I think the Vikings are a better team than New Orleans and probably Philadelphia as well. Have them slightly below the Niners. So they definitely have the upside. Kirk Cousins has been, he takes care of the ball. He's been perfectly fine. Justin Jefferson, one of the 3 or 4 best receivers in the game. Do worry a little bit about the defense going up against Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. But, they have a path to winning that game. And then they get, I think, the Bears in Week 18, which they should take care of business there. So they're very live.
Yeah, it's odd with that conversation. I want to get to one more here in a minute, but usually I'm the one that like takes a stand and goes, "This is the one I like." I don't know if there's one in this group, oddly enough, that I like. I mean, you laid it down the right way. That three-way tie, I guess, figures for the Eagles, to have a real chance to get in here, no doubt about it. I guess the one I look at, to me, that at least seems the most stone cold is I'm going to say the 49ers get in because they'll win this week for sure against the Houston Texans. But man, that's a tough group there. I'm not sure if I know which one I would pick right off the bat. Like, if I had to bottle you to one, what do you think's the one you like the most there out of the group we talked about?
Yeah, I think at the odds, I would probably just take the Eagles to make it, just because I think that they will win against Washington and then they're in the box seat. And it's difficult with these types of markets because you can't just say, all right, who's the best team? Because the best team is the Niners. But because you have to get into this model of tiebreakers and schedule, those things really favor Philadelphia. So that's probably the one that I would look at.
Yep. Okay. All right. Good. That's kind of how I felt too. Just that three-way tie conversation, you're right, is what confuses things. All right. Now, let's talk about Super Bowl. It's a big one. We'll be there. It's NBC. It's in LA. You look at the odds here. Again, it's a Super Bowl race that I look at as where I go, this is wide open as I can ever remember. It really is. It's a year where I feel like most years we can kind of pin it to go, well, these 4 or 5 teams can win the Super Bowl, and that's about it. This year, I look at it and go, man, I really think there might be 8, 10 teams that can legitimately get to the Super Bowl, win it. Kansas City, obviously, with the greatest odds at plus 400, followed by Green Bay at plus 450. Break it down for us here, Jay.
Yeah, so the odds have shifted all throughout the season, but we wind up in the place pretty much where we started with Kansas City favorite with their 8-game winning streak. And then the key thing with this market is that with the way the playoffs are structured now, it's just so important to get the 1 seed. And so unsurprisingly, the 2 teams in the box seat for the 1 seed, Kansas City and Green Bay, they're our 2 favorites. Also helps that they have Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers as their quarterbacks.
Right.
So that's why they're the tier 1. Tampa Bay and Buffalo after that. Tampa Bay falling off, but still have a real chance to get the 2 seed. And you can't write off Tom Brady. And even with Chris Godwin out, they have still some pretty good weapons to throw the ball to. And Mike Evans will come back. Antonio Brown is back. Rob Gronkowski there. And they will get players back on defense as well. So they can't be written off. But the one team that I'd look at a little bit further down the list is Tennessee, who are plus 2,000. And look, I don't think Tennessee are a better team than really maybe any of the teams above them, but they have a real chance to get the 1 seed. They are probably the team that is most likely outside of Green Bay and Kansas City to get a 1 seed. They need Kansas City probably to lose in Cincinnati to Joe Burrow, which is very conceivable. And then Tennessee themselves, they need to beat Miami in Tennessee, and then they need to win at Houston, which is also very conceivable.
Right.
And then they probably get Derrick Henry back, Julio Jones. Hopefully they'll get something out of him. AJ Brown is back and seemingly completely fine based on what he did against San Francisco. So I think that they are looming. Their defense, which was their big question coming into the year, is just good. It's just a solid defense. And if they get Henry back, they start getting more into their play action game, AJ Brown, I think Tennessee are a team to watch, but they probably need to get the 1 seed.
Yeah, I hear you there. And I'm with you in the fact of Tennessee. I think everybody's sleeping on the Tennessee Titans just because there's not enough sex appeal. Even if Derrick Henry doesn't come back, as long as they got, like you said, something out of Julio Jones and now A.J. Brown being back, I still think they're going to be dangerous. The defense is real. It's one of the best run-stopping defensive lines in all of football. And we know running the football, play action pass, stopping the run, that translates usually to wins in playoff football, let alone Mike Vrabel coach teams usually have the proper game plan every week. Doesn't always translate to wins or losses, but I always come away going, they played that the right way. They did, and then that's interesting. All right, here's one I want to throw at you. To me, that just has, like your Titans team that I look at, the Cowboys at a plus 1,000 is another one that I look at and just go, wow, there's some value there to that one. Again, I know the Packers are the team right now in the NFC, but man, if the Packers played the Cowboys in a head-up matchup right now, I feel like I'd take the Cowboys with the way they're playing. They're, I think, more talented than Green Bay. That's one I look at to have a little value there. Do you think I'm crazy to have that thought?
No, I don't. I think the Cowboys are the most interesting team in the NFC, and not just they have the star on the helmet, but because the way that that defense is playing, it might be the best defense in the game. And the way that Dak Prescott looked on Sunday night, if he is back and that team is back offensively, then they become, maybe the scariest team in the whole league. The one piece of apprehension, I guess, I'd have about the Cowboys is that they have surged recently against bad teams.
Yeah.
They've taken care of Washington. I don't know what that Washington team was on Sunday night, but I'm not sure you can read too much into that for the Cowboys outside of Dak really moving freely and looking like himself.
Right.
And then they blow out the Giants. But, is this defense, is it actually the best in the league, which it's looked like the past few weeks, or are they just doing it against bad quarterbacks and bad teams? And is Dak actually back, or is he just, was that just a training drill against that Washington's defense? So I think we'll learn a lot about the Cowboys, particularly this week against Arizona, but then also against Philadelphia in week 18, where if they destroy those two teams, then I think you can make a credible case that the Cowboys are the most complete team in the league with, Prescott, if he's back to playing at an MVP level, Micah Parsons, Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and with Gregory and Lawrence back to go along with Parsons and Diggs and co, they're a pretty frightening team.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all you said there. You're right. There's still, some questions there about the quality opponents they have beaten, but they certainly, the eye test, their talent, the defensive line being healthy, like you said, they seem dominant. But you're right. I think we need to see a little bit more evidence, and this week's matchup against the Cardinals will go a long way to kind of tell us how real they really are. All right, as usual, you're the man. You were like Tom Brady in the Super Bowl last year, just tearing things up. That's what you were doing. That's why they pay you the big bucks. Always love having you on, Jay. Be good. Happy New Year. You the man.
Pleasure, Chris. Happy New Year, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.